41. The section of the Swabian territory that I have described stretches out into the less well-known part of Germany. Nearer to us, to follow now the course of the Danube as we previously followed that of the Rhine, are our faithful allies the Hermunduri. Because they are so loyal, they are the only Germans who trade with us not merely on the riverbank, but far within our borders, and indeed in the splendid colony that is the capital of Rhaetia. They come over where they will, and without a guard set over them. The other Germans are only allowed to see our armed camps. To the Hermunduri we exhibit our mansions and country houses without their coveting them. In their country are the sources of the Elbe, a river well known and much talked of in earlier days, but now a mere name. 42. Next to the Hermunduri dwell the Naristi, followed by the Marcomanni and the Quadi. The Marcomanni are conspicuous in reputation and power. Even their homeland, from which they drove out the Boii, was won by their bravery. Nor do the Naristi and Quadi fall below their high standard. These people form the front, so to speak, presented to us by that part of Germany which is girdled by the Danube. Down to our own times, the Marcomanni and Quadi still had kings of their own race, the noble line of Merobodus and Tudrus, but now they sometimes have foreign rulers set over them. The power of the kings depends entirely on the authority of Rome. They occasionally receive armed resistance from us, more often financial aid, which proves equally effective. 43. Close behind the Marcomanni and the Quadi are the Marsigni, Cotini, Ossi, and Buri. Of these, the Marsigni and Buri are exactly like the Swabi in language and mode of life. The Cotini and the Ossi are not Germans. That is proved by their languages, Celtic in the one case, Pannonian in the other, and also by the fact that they submit to paying tribute. The payments are exacted from them as foreigners by the Quadi and by the Sarmatians respectively, of which the Cotini have all the more reason to be ashamed inasmuch as they work iron mines. All these peoples are settled in country with few plains consisting mostly of mountains and upland valleys. Swabia, in fact, is cut in two down the middle by an unbroken range of mountains, beyond which live a multitude of tribes, of whom the Lugi are the most widely spread, being divided into a number of smaller units. I need only give the names of the most powerful: the Hari, Helvecones, Manimi, Helisi, and Nahavali. The Nahavali proudly point out a grove associated with an ancient worship. The presiding priest dresses like a woman, but the deities are said to be the counterpart of our Castor and Pollux. This indicates their character, but their name is the Archi. There are no images and nothing to suggest that the cult is of foreign origin, but they are certainly worshipped as young men and as brothers. As for the Hari, not only are they superior in strength to the other peoples I have just mentioned, but they minister to their savage instincts by trickery and clever timing. They black their shields and dye their bodies and choose pitch-dark nights for their battles. The shadowy, awe-inspiring appearance of such a ghoulish army inspires mortal panic. For no enemy can endure a sight so strange and hellish. Defeat in battle starts always with the eyes. 44. Beyond the Lugi are the Gothones, who are governed by kings. Their rule is somewhat more autocratic than in the other German states, but not to such a degree that freedom is destroyed. Then, immediately bordering on the sea, are the Rugi and Lemovi. All these peoples are distinguished by the use of round shields and short swords, and by submission to regal authority. Next come the states of the Suones, right out in the sea. They are powerful not only in arms and men, but also in fleets. The shape of their ships differs from the normal in having a prow at each end, so that they are always facing the right way to put into shore. They do not propel them with sails, nor do they fasten a row of oars to the sides. The rowlocks are movable, as one finds them on some river craft, and can be reversed as circumstances require, for rowing in either direction. Wealth, too, is held in high honour, and so a single monarch rules, with no restrictions on his power, and with an unquestioned claim to obedience. Arms are not, as in the rest of Germany, allowed to all and sundry, but are kept in charge of a custodian, who in fact is a slave. There are two reasons for this control of weapons. The sea makes sudden invasion impossible, and idle crowds of armed men easily get into mischief. As for not putting any noble or freeman, or even a freedman, in charge of the arms, that is a part of royal policy. 45. Beyond the Suones we find another sea, sluggish and almost stagnant. This sea is believed to be the boundary that girdles the earth, because the last radiance of the setting sun lingers on here till dawn, with a brilliance that dims the stars. Popular belief adds that you can hear the sound he makes as he rises from the waves, and can see the shape of his horses and the rays on his head. So far and no farther, in this report speaks truly, does the world extend. Turning therefore to the right-hand shore of the Swabian Sea, we find it washing the country of the Aesti, who have the same customs and fashions as the Swabi, but a language more like the British. They worship the Mother of Gods, and wear as an emblem of this cult the device of a wild boar, which stands them instead of armour or human protection, and gives the worshipper a sense of security even among his enemies. They seldom use weapons of iron, but clubs very often. They cultivate grain and other crops with a perseverance unusual among the indolent Germans. They also ransack the sea. They are the only people who collect amber, glacium is their word for it, in the shallows or even on the beach. Like true barbarians, they have never asked or discovered what it is or how it is produced. For a long time indeed it lay unheeded like any other refuse of the sea, until Roman luxury made its reputation. They have no use for it themselves. They gather it crude, pass it on in unworked lumps, and are astounded at the price it fetches. Amber, however, is certainly a gum of trees, as you may see from the fact that creeping and even winged creatures are often seen shining through it. Caught in the sticky liquid, they are then imprisoned as it hardens. I imagine that in the islands and continents of the West, just as in the secret chambers of the East, where the trees exude frankincense and balm, there must be woods and groves of unusual productivity. Their gums, drawn out by the rays of their near neighbour the sun, flow in liquid state into the adjacent sea, and are finally washed up by violent storms on the shores that lie opposite. If you test the properties of amber by applying fire to it, you will find that it lights like a torch and burns with a smoky, pungent flame, soon becoming a semi-fluid mass like pitch or resin. Bordering on the Suones are the nations of the Citones. They resemble them in all respects but one. Woman is the ruling sex. That is the measure of their decline. I will not say below freedom, but even below decent slavery. 46. Here Swabia ends. I do not know whether to class the tribes of the Piocini, Venedi, and Feni with the Germans or with the Sarmatians. The Piocini, however, who are sometimes called Bastane, are like Germans in their language, manner of life, and mode of settlement and habitation. Squalor is universal among them, and their nobles are indolent. Mixed marriages are giving them something of the repulsive appearance of the Sarmatians. The Venedi have adopted many Sarmatian habits, for their plundering forays take them all over the wooded and mountainous highlands that lie between the Piocini and the Feni. Nevertheless, they are on the whole to be classed as Germans, for they have settled homes, carry shields, and are fond of travelling, and travelling fast, on foot, differing in all these respects from the Sarmatians who live in wagons or on horseback. The Feni are astonishingly savage and disgustingly poor. They have no proper weapons, no horses, no homes. They eat wild herbs, dress in skins, and sleep on the ground. Their only hope of getting better fare lies in their arrows, which, for lack of iron, they tip with bone. The women support themselves by hunting exactly like the men. They accompany them everywhere and insist on taking their share in bringing down the game. The only way they have of protecting their infants against wild beasts or bad weather is to hide them under a makeshift covering of interlaced branches. Such is the shelter to which the young folk come back, and in which the old must die. Yet they count their lot happier than that of others who groan over field labour, sweat over house building, or hazard their own or other men's fortunes in the hope of profit and the fear of loss. Unafraid of anything that man or God can do to them, they have reached a state that few human beings can attain. For these men are so well content that they do not even need to pray for anything. What comes after them is the stuff of fables. Helusi and Oxyones with the faces and features of men, the bodies and limbs of animals. Of such unverifiable stories I shall express no opinion.